It's a Spotify podcast.
You pushed me down, thought I'd stay on the ground, counting me.
Wednesday morning arrived without a ceremony. Ashwood High School was already awake before the sun had fully cleared the rooftops. A custodian pushed a wide broom through the front hallway. The vending machines hummed. Somewhere near the gym, a basketball struck the floor in a slow, steady rhythm. Teachers unlocked classrooms, turned on lights, and carried coffee towards another ordinary day. David Harper walked through the front doors, 10 minutes earlier than usual. He had not forgotten Principal Reynolds' phone call. Before first period, "I would like your help with someone." The words had followed him home the night before, not because they sounded alarming, because they were unfinished. And David had learned only one day earlier what his mind could do with unfinished things. This time, he tried not to complete the story before he had the facts. "Naomi, strike that." And David had learned only one day earlier what his mind could do with unfinished things. This time, he tried not to complete the story before he had the facts. He passed the trophy case, turned down the administrative hallway, and stopped outside Principal Reynolds' office. The door was open. Reynolds stood behind his desk, reading a folder. He looked up. "You came early." David smiled. "You asked me to." Reynolds closed the folder. For a moment, he seemed to be choosing his words carefully. "There is a student in your first period class." David waited. "The student has been late 4 times in 2 weeks. Yesterday, there was an argument in the hallway. Nothing physical, but the student walked away from a teacher who was trying to talk." David nodded slowly. He already knew which desk Reynolds meant. The one near the back wall. The student who often arrived after the bell. The student who rarely looked up. The student whose notebook was usually closed. David felt an answer forming in his mind. Disrespectful. Unmotivated. Maybe defiant. The words came quickly. They also felt reasonable. Principal Reynolds leaned against the edge of his desk. "I'm not asking you to discipline anyone." "Then what are you asking?" "Talk to the student before class. Not as an administrator, not as a problem to solve, just to see whether there is something we are missing." David looked towards the clock. First period would begin in 25 minutes. "All right." Reynolds nodded. "That's all I wanted." David turns towards the door. "David?" He looked back. "Try not to decide who the student is before the conversation begins." David gave a small laugh. That advice sounds familiar. The hallway had begun filling with the time David reached his classroom. Lockers opened and slammed. Shoes squeaked against the polished floors. Students called one... Naomi, strike that. Students called to one another from opposite ends of the hall. David set his bag inside the desk, wrote the day's date on the board, and waited. At 3 minutes before the bell, the student appeared in the doorway. Not late, not today. The student stopped when David said, "Could I talk with you for a moment?" The shoulders tightened immediately. "Am I in trouble?" "No." The student looked towards the hallway as though measuring the distance back to freedom. David pulled out a chair rather than standing behind his desk. "Principal Reynolds told me yesterday was difficult." The student's expression changed. Not guilt. Something closer to exhaustion. I knew he would tell you." David almost said, "You should have not walked away from a teacher." The sentence rose to the front of his mind. He let it pass. What happened? The student stared at the floor. Nothing. David waited. The hallway noise moved around them. A locker door slammed. Someone laughed. The clock clicked forward. Nothing usually does that makes people look this tired, David said. The student looked up for the first time. I work in the mornings. David said nothing. Before school, I help somebody in my family. Then I take the bus. Sometimes it's late. Yesterday I had not eaten, and that teacher kept asking why I was ignoring her. I was not ignoring her. I just did not want to say everything in the hallway. David felt the words he had formed earlier to begin to loosen. Disrespectful, unmotivated, defiant. They had sounded like descriptions. They had sounded like conclusions. Why did you not tell me? He asked. The student gave a tired half smile. You never asked. There are moments when a sentence does not accuse you, but still tells you the truth. David looked at the closed notebook on the desk. He had seen it every day. He had assumed the student did not care. He had never considered that a closed notebook might belong to someone fighting simply to remain awake. The bell rang. Students began entering the room. David stood. Take your seat. We will talk again later. The student paused. Am I getting written up? Not by me. The student nodded, moved towards the back of the room. David turned to the class. He had planned to teach about how historians evaluate leaders. Instead, he began with a question. When we see what someone does, he said, how much do we really know about why they did it? A student near the front of the class raised a hand. Depends on what they did. Maybe, David said. But suppose someone is late. What does that tell us? That they do not care, someone answered. Or they overslept. Or they missed the bus. Or they are lazy. David wrote each answer on the board. Then he underlined one word. Or. History is full of people who believe they understood someone's character because they saw one action, he said. But an action is not always a complete explanation. Let us pause there. David had not done anything cruel. He had not insulted the student. He had not issued a punishment. He simply looked at behavior and assumed it revealed character. Most of us do this every day. Someone cuts us off in traffic. We decide they are selfish. A cashier moves slowly. We decide they do not care about their job. A friend cancels dinner. We decide we are not important to them. A coworker misses a deadline. We decide they are irresponsible. We see what people do and then we explain it by deciding what kind of person they are. Psychologists have a name for this tendency. The fundamental attribution error. The fundamental attribution error. The phrase sounds complicated. The habit is not. It means we often overestimate personality and underestimate circumstances when we explain someone else's behavior. When another person is late, we may call them careless. When we are late, we remember the traffic, the phone call, the broken alarm, and every other circumstance that made the morning difficult. We give ourselves context. We give other people labels. David had given the student a label before he knew the morning, and labels are powerful because they change what we notice next. Once we decide someone is lazy, every delay becomes proof. Once we decide someone is rude, every quiet moment becomes an insult. Once we decide difference, the first period lesson continued. David spoke about a historical figure whose choices had been judged differently depending on which account a person read. He asked the class to separate action from explanation. What happened? What might have influenced it? What evidence would we need before deciding? The questions were meant for history. David knew they were also meant for him. After class, the unnamed student stayed behind. You changed the lesson. David erased part of the board. A good teacher should be willing to learn before teaching. The student glanced towards the hallway. Are you going to tell everyone what I said? No. Even Principal Reynolds? David considered the question. I will tell him you talked to me that we should respond carefully. The rest is yours unless safety requires otherwise. The student nodded. Nothing dramatic happened. There was no sudden speech. No promise that everything would change. The student simply opened the notebook before leaving. Inside were pages of careful handwriting. Not empty, not neglected. Completed work. David had never seen it because he had never asked to. At lunch, he returned to Principal Reynolds' office. Well? Reynolds asked. David sat in the chair across from the desk. We were missing something. Can you tell me what? Only enough to say that the lateness is not a complete picture. There are circumstances we should understand before we decide what the behavior means. Reynolds nodded. That is what I hoped you would discover. David leaned back. Did you already know? No. Then why'd you ask me? Reynolds looked through his office window towards the hallway. Because yesterday, everyone was ready to describe the student. Nobody was asking a question. That afternoon, David stopped at Rosa's diner. The bell above the door rang. Rosa poured coffee before he reached the counter. You look less troubled than yesterday, she said. I am differently troubled. That sounds inconvenient. David smiled and told her about the conversation without identifying the student. When he finished, Rosa wiped the counter in a slow circle. People are easier to judge them from far away, she said. Why is that? Because distance hides the weight they are carrying. David looked across the diner. A delivery driver sat alone, rubbing one shoulder. A woman at the window checked her phone 3 times in a minute. A man near the door counted coins before ordering. Each person had entered carrying a life no one else could see. The diner looked ordinary. It was not simple. Neither were the people inside it. There is a lesson in that. Not that behavior does not matter. It does. Not that circumstances excuse choice. They do not. The lesson is that understanding should come before certainty whenever possible. We could hold people accountable without pretending we already know their entire story. We can see boundaries without reducing someone to their worst moment. We can notice behavior and still ask what else might be true. That question does not make us weak. It makes our judgment more accurate. The next time someone frustrates you, try this. Describe the behavior without turning into a personality. Instead of saying, he is inconsiderate, say, he arrived 20 minutes late. Instead of saying, she does not care, say, she did not respond today. Instead of saying, they are lazy, say, the work was not finished. Then ask one more question. What circumstance might I not know? You may still need to act. You may still need to speak honestly. but you will be responding to what happened rather than punishing a person you invented in your mind. David finished his coffee and stood to leave. Outside, students from Ashwood High walked along Main Street in small groups. One moved quickly, one lagged behind, one stared at the ground. Yesterday, David might have... Naomi, strike that. Yesterday, David might have thought he knew what those differences meant. Today, he saw questions, and sometimes wisdom begins there. Not with the right answer, with the decision to stop calling an assumption a fact. My name is Leroy Nellis, and this is Resilience Radio. Godspeed, stand for the Constitution, and never surrender your ability to think for yourself. God bless, and good night.
It's a Spotify podcast.
You pushed me down, thought I'd stay on the ground, counting me.
One. Hey, everybody. I wanted to sit down with you today and talk about something we've been working on behind the scenes for quite a while now. First, I want to thank you. Whether you've been here from the beginning or you just found the channel recently, I want you to know that I genuinely appreciate every single one of you. Every comment, every conversation, every suggestion, every word of encouragement has helped shape what Resilience Radio is becoming. This isn't just my channel anymore. It's about a community. And because of that, I wanted you to hear these changes directly from me. Over the last several months, we've been doing something a little unusual. We've been studying our analytics almost obsessively. Not just YouTube analytics, but the analytics coming from Naomi, the AI production system we've been building from the ground up. We've been asking questions like, what videos do people come here for? What keeps people watching? What topics naturally fit together? And what happens when we mix very little types of content on the same channel? After looking at thousands of data points, we came to one conclusion. It's time to let each series become a very best version of itself. So today, I'm excited to announce that Rabbit Holes is becoming its own dedicated YouTube channel. Rabbit Holes deserves its own home. It's where we dive into mysteries, history, unsolved questions, and rabbit holes. Strange events, forgotten stories, and all of those fascinating topics that make us lose track of time. By giving Rabbit Holes its own channel, YouTube can better understand who those videos are for. Our AI can learn from much cleaner data, and we can build something truly special for people who love those deep dives. Resilience Radio will continue doing what has always meant to do, help people understand themselves through psychology, critical thinking, human behavior, wisdom, and resilience. Separating the two channels doesn't mean we're making less content. It actually means that we're going to be making more and better content. So here's what I'd like to do. Right below this video, I've put the links for both channels. Please just take a moment to subscribe to both of them. That way, when a new episode drops, whether it's Resilience Radio or Rabbit Holes, you'll be notified immediately and won't miss anything. Now, here's one more announcement. And honestly, this is one that I'm most excited about. We've completely re-imaged Loopwired. Loopwired isn't just another educational series anymore. It's become something much bigger. Imagine learning psychology without feeling like you're sitting through a lecture. Imagine following the life of an ordinary history teacher in a small town named Ashwood, a town where nothing extraordinary seems to happen until you begin to realize that the biggest mysteries aren't out there. They're inside the human mind. Every Monday through Friday, you'll follow David Harper as he encounters ordinary moments that quietly reveal extraordinary truths about the way we think. You'll laugh with him. You'll make the same mistakes he makes. You'll discover psychological blind spots before he does, and sometimes after he does. Every episode tells a complete story, but every episode also moves David and hopefully all of us one step closer to wisdom. It's storytelling, psychology, and personal growth woven together into a single journey. And I honestly think it's unlike anything currently on YouTube. Speaking of things unlike anything on YouTube, I have to brag on Naomi for just a minute. Many of you have watched us build her from the ground up. What started as a simple idea has evolved into an AI production partner that is helping us organize stories, manage continuity, analyze content, assist with research, and dramatically improve the quality and consistency of everything we create. She's still learning. We're still improving her, and every week she's becoming faster, smarter, and more capable. Watching this project grow has been one of the most rewarding experiences I've ever had, and I can't wait to show what's coming next. Finally, I want to address the In the Box series. I know many of you have been following that story closely. After giving it a lot of thought, I've decided to pause that series until my litigation has reached its conclusion. I want to be able to tell that story completely, carefully, and with the benefit of everything that comes afterward. I think that's the most responsible way to do it. But the story itself isn't stopping. While the litigation moves forward, I'll be writing a book that tells a story in much great depth than YouTube ever could. Books allow for context, documentation, reflection, and details that simply don't fit inside a video. I'm really looking forward to sharing that journey with you, and I hope that you'll come along for it. As always, thank you. Thanks for believing in this project. Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for believing in what we're trying to build together. This community has become one of the most thoughtful, encouraging, intellectually curious groups of people I have ever had the privilege of knowing. The future of Resilience Radio, Rabbit Holes, Loopwired, and Naomi has never looked brighter. The next chapter starts now. My name is Leroy Nellis, and this is Resilience Radio. Godspeed, stand for the Constitution, never surrender your ability to think for yourself. God bless, and good night.
You pushed me down, thought I'd stay on the ground, counting me out like the numbers didn't matter. But pressure builds diamonds in the dark, and I've been sharpening my edge in the chatter. Every scar turned into strategy, every setback fueled my clarity. I took the hits, learned the game, turned my losses into flame. Now I'm coming back strong, and you'll remember my name. I'm rising through the fire, breaking every wall you built around me. Heart's a battle drum, beating louder, a force you'll never drown. See, this is my return, my moment, my power. I'm rising, yeah, I'm rising. You pushed me down, thought I'd stay on the ground, counting me out like the numbers didn't matter. But pressure builds diamonds in the dark, and I've been sharpening my edge in the chatter. Every scar turned into strategy, every setback fueled my clarity. I took the hits, learned the game, turned my losses into flame. Now I'm coming back strong, and you'll remember my name. I'm rising through the fire.